So you're in search of getting a true film look from your footage. Well, that has a lot of requirement: lighting, composition, and your block. But let's assume you already have those prerequisites to create a cinematic image and you want to get a true film look. There's one thing that you have to take into consideration, and that is your lens choice. Your lens choice is going to play a big factor in how your image look and feels, and what sort of response that's going to conjure in your audience. One of the things that can allow you to have a more filmic look is by using a vintage lens. However, if you would like to step that up even further, you can use a special lens called an anamorphic lens. There are many characteristics that make these lenses different from regular lenses. If you'd like to learn more about how anamorphic lenses work, the theory and history of anamorphic lenses, click the link in the description to watch the video series by the Media Division. The lens characteristics from anamorphic lenses are one of the main reasons why a lot of filmmakers are attracted to these lenses. With my current setup, I get a little bit of flaring, and it's just enough to see the nice little flare, but it's not overbearing like my previous experience with 𝗖𝗵𝗲𝗀𝗀𝗪 lenses. If you take a look at the background, you can see the oval bokeh. Man, does that look so good, especially when you add a diopter, which stretches the oval bokeh even more. Take a look at that. You can see how natural the anamorphic lens focuses. Obviously, anamorphic lenses are going to have a little bit of focus breathing, or maybe even a lot. However, just the way the focus falls off is just a little bit more natural, and you can either purchase a anamorphic lens like the 𝗖𝗵𝗲𝗀𝗀𝗀𝗀 lenses and use those, or you can build your own. I decided to build my own simply because it's a little bit more cost effective, given the fact that this is going to be a specialty lens that I probably will be using mostly on my personal projects. Using a anamorphic lens isn't as practical as using a spherical lens. Spherical lenses are oftentimes faster, allowing you to use less light. Obviously, anamorphic lenses are the opposite. You're going to need more light. You oftentimes suffer from the lenses not being fast enough. Not only that, anamorphic lenses are oftentimes heavier than spherical lenses. So that's going to make your setup bigger and heavier, more cumbersome and finicky to use while you're shooting. So it's going to require more support, maybe an easy rig. You're going to be stuck to using a tripod or something like that. You have to take these things into consideration, but these are things that you're going to have to put up with if you want to just squeeze out the tiny little bit of filmic and cinematic value out of your camera, in my opinion anyways. My setup consists of multiple parts, simply because I'm using an anamorphic adapter, and my setup is not a true anamorphic lens. I'm using the Sankor 16C, which is a projector lens. This is the first part of my setup that actually creates the anamorphic look. This device, the scope, squeezes the image, and in post, it'll stretch back out to give me a true cinema scope. This anamorphic adapter in particular gives me a 2x squeeze, allowing me to get the maximum anamorphic effect with oval bokeh and light flaring. We'll talk about the characteristics of this lens later on in the video. The next important part of my setup is the taking lens. The taking lens is a lens that focuses the squeezed image onto the camera's sensor. In my case, I went through a couple variations. Initially, I used the Helios 44M. I didn't like how it looked at first, and then I switched over to the Helios 44-2. And that still wasn't getting me the results I wanted. I eventually landed on using the Carl Zeiss 𝗤𝗄𝗯𝗟𝗢 silver 50mm 2.8 lens, which is basically what the Helios lenses were copying. This allowed me to get a slightly more clear image shooting wide open at 2.8. All the different clamps and devices I used to put all these components together will be linked in the description, and once everything is put together, you get images that look something like this. If you really want to get your footage to that next level and step it right over the top, given that you already have good lighting, good composition, and good blocking of your actors, choosing a better lens in some sort of way, it doesn't have to be more expensive, it just can be different in a way. You know, using a vintage lens or using a vintage lens with an anamorphic adapter can allow you to have a different look that can be a little bit more unique and add that little bit of, you know, just a little cherry on top to make your footage look a little bit more cinematic and film-like. Well, anyways guys, my name is 𝗤𝗏𝗏𝗀, and I'll see you guys in my next video.